does Howie hold on to, cling to, may be the better way to describe it, control of the 48-man roster because he wants to be in those meetings, because he feels he needs to be in those meetings? And you're right. If the guy who's going to pick out who's going to be active and inactive doesn't know what's going to happen on the field on Sunday, he's just doing it blindly. So if he is the man who is in charge of the roster, it only makes sense that he knows what the coaches are planning. But do you think he does that because he just wants to hold on to the power base that he has? And good morning, Birds fans. Yes, good morning, because I got a good night's sleep, as in overslept. My apologies.
I was worried about too many IPAs. You were at that Mike.
I would love, Johnny Mac, I would love to be able to come on and say, the party was so good. I just kept drinking. And all of a sudden I realized I shouldn't be driving. And I had to Uber all the way back from Bridgeport, PA, which is just north of King of Prussia. I wish that were the case. Oh, no, I was home in time watching the end of AEW. Not a problem. You may not hear, well, you never hear anything in the background because I hit the mute button. I'm surprised my computer's working because we took a power hit somehow, some way, sometime in the middle of the night. And my alarm clock went to midnight, the flashing 12s when the alarm clock goes
flashing
down.
12.
Yeah. And right now I got no cable service. It turned off the box, turned back on the box. I got zippity doodah. So my apologies for the inconvenience and my tardiness, but it was because of a power hit in the local neighborhood.
I got the best alarm clock in the world, Jody.
Really? Where'd you get it? You know where my alarm clock is? It's a clock radio that I'm guessing I purchased in about 1985.
There we go. Still got one.
Where
do you get the parts to fix that thing?
I had this when I worked in Connecticut for ESPN, and then moved back to New York. Brought it with me and perfectly fine and worked. And when I moved here to Jersey, I brought it with me again. The thing is, it's got to be 35 to 40 years old, but it works. The only time it ever goes out is, well, it works to a point, I guess, because when we take a power hit, it does revert to 12 midnight. Yeah, it's got to be 35 years. Maybe I should invest in a new one. What kind you got?
My dog, 6:30, up, wants to eat.
Not mine.
Wants to eat.
My dog is good in that she doesn't get the old man up, but it's so funny, and we'll get talking in the Eagles in a second here, guys. My dog comes to bed when I go to bed. Whether my wife is already up there or not, she stays down with me until I go to bed. That's when she comes upstairs, and she jumps up into the bed and wakes my wife, bothers my wife or whatever, waits till I get comfortable and set, and then leaves. And then she goes on her own. She doesn't stay and sleep in a bed with me and the wife. No. She's out of the Audi 5000.
She needs room.
She does.
Room. Yeah, our sleeps with us. So she is up. She is up, and she makes sure I'm up.
Not mine.
Yeah,
she gets out of that.
I think
she actually meets with friends in the middle of the night. I don't know because I'm sound asleep. But I get up in the morning and she's usually at the bottom of the stairs, ready to go out, but she doesn't come up and wake me up. That would have been nice. Had she done it this morning, I would have made the beginning of Birds 365.
As a matter of fact, I hate alarms. I hate being woken up by an alarm. Bothers me.
I hate it too. But if I didn't, you wouldn't have got me 40 minutes into the show. You would have not gotten me at all in the show, because I'd probably still be asleep. So I need an alarm, and mine works very well, except if the house takes a power hit in the middle of the night. All right, I'm sorry that I missed Mr. Farzetta. Yeah, I jumped into the green room, so I caught the very end of him. Always fun talking with Farzi. What did I miss?
He's bitter.
Who's he laying the blame on?
He was bitter against you because last time he was on, you accused him of using Just for Men.
Oh, he does. There's no question he does.
He claimed that no, it's natural.
He's so full of baloney.
Yeah. So he was looking forward to taking shots. He was mad
because I said, "Oh shoot, did I say that right at the end?" So he couldn't deny it last time.
I'm jealous, obviously.
Oh, so am I. I'm tremendously jealous.
Yeah, that's what I said. We're just jealous.
Yeah, but I still stand by what I say. I'm not backing down from it.
You're probably right. Yeah, because Mark's not losing anything. There's not one gray hair, Mark. If you're still listening. There's not one. Yeah. So he claims it's all natural.
I think tell you, right. Here's a quick trick for you. I, at one point, did more television appearances than I do these days because I just choose not to leave the house. I did for McNow's charity thing last night, but that's because it's McNow. But when I used to do a television spot here or there, was a couple minutes, come in, do the sports, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And I didn't want to go with coloring the beard. The girl who cuts my hair gave me makeup that she said, if you just apply this, it's the same color as the makeup I would use for your skin if you were using makeup, which I never wanted to do makeup, and I never wanted to do this with my hair either. But the temples were all gray and the beard was turning white. Now, this is 15 years ago. And she said, just put this makeup on. And she gave me a makeup brush and she put it on. And damn, it did. It looked good. It looked like the little bit of hair that I still had left on the top of my head. And she said, all you got to do is go to the sink and water and boom, it comes right out. And it did. So I did it at one time solely for television appearances. And then I would just wash it straight out again. Never went to the hair club for men that Farzetta uses.
Just for men. I'm sorry. He firmly denied it, just like Howie Roseman denies being involved.
Being in the meetings with the coordinators, really? When did Howie come out and deny that?
No, he did not come out. Okay. But I heard about it yesterday, so I was able to get some.
Can you explain that to us, or is that part of the code of journalism? You're not allowed to.
No, I can explain because I wrote about it. So I got somebody in the building to tell me, and by the way, this is why I didn't make a big deal out of it to begin with, because I was already pretty aware of that this was the way things worked. And it has more to do with personnel. Howie's still in charge of the game day roster. Now, I wasn't able to get that confirmed, but I got the old non-confirmation confirmation, and I'll explain that to you. I explained it to Tone, so I'll do it quickly.
Yes.
So we all know he's in charge of the 53 and the 70.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious because people may have forgotten this. When Sirianni was hired and he did his first kind of stumbling, fumbling, mumbling press conference, he was asked that question and he didn't even know.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm not sure.
So that was a confirmation.
You're taking over his coach and you don't know if you have the control of your own roster.
Yeah,
coach?
That was a good indication he did not and didn't care, which is fine. But, the 53 I have no problem with. It's not that big of a deal. We joke about the roster pool every year the beat reporters have. We all get the same amount. There's no great disconnect between the 53-man roster. If there is, it might be one player at the back end who's not going to matter anyway. I do have a problem with the game day roster. He had control over the game day roster under Doug, and I thought that was an issue. Still haven't got it confirmed, but it's pretty clear that he's got control over it again. And that's what everybody was talking about. He needs to know what the coaches want for a particular game. And I used the elevations last week as an example. So Britt and Kobe, the coaches will tell them, look, we don't feel comfortable with Quez Watkins returning punts, so we need a punt returner. You elevate Britt and Kobe. They wanted more of a blocking tight end, more of a blocking presence than Grant Calcaterra, the third tight end. So all of a sudden, Noah Tungiai is elevated. That's the kind of thing. again, it's not that big of a deal, but I do have a problem with it because it's an extra layer you don't need. Just leave the coaches alone, let them make their decisions, and do that. So that's all they were talking about. He needs information, and by the way, he deserves information, and there's no problem in that. My only issue is when you're in a position of power, and I use Doug Peterson, Jeffrey Lurie, go back to that Green Bay game. I use that as an example. They upset Aaron Rodgers and Lambeau. The next Tuesday, Jeffrey Lurie saying, "Hey, why did we run it so much?" And Doug took that the wrong way. If you're in a position of power and you say these things and you ask questions, sometimes it goes in a negative direction. That's my only issue. But for Nick Sirianni, I think it was clear because what did we do all off season, Jody? All we talked about, well, you got to pass the ball. You got to pass the ball. You got to do that. You got to get better in the passing game. You just paid A.J. Brown $100 million. You have Devontae Smith. You have Dallas Goedert. Pass, 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 pass. And they show up week one, and Nick Sirianni does what he has to do to win the game. So I think that's a clear indication that he's allowed to do whatever he wants to win a football game, which is good. And then the second part is, and I got this emphatically, Howie Roseman has nothing to do with anything involving scheme. So it's strictly personnel, roster, things like that. Does he want information? Sure. He's not involved in scheme.
All right. So my next question has to be this, and it's your opinion. Does Howie hold on to, cling to, maybe the better way to describe it, control of the 48-man roster because he wants to be in those meetings, because he feels he needs to be in those meetings? And you're right. If the guy who's going to pick out who's going to be active and inactive doesn't know what's going to happen on the field on Sunday, he's just doing it blindly. So if he is the man who is in charge of the roster, it only makes sense that he knows what the coaches are planning. But do you think he does that because he just wants to hold on to the power base that he has? And if you know, other coaches around the league, and we know Nick Sirianni is a second-year coach with other second-year coaches on his staff, guys in positions that haven't had these positions before and or for very long. How does that come with other coaching staffs around the league? Are they similar to the Eagles in that, yes, the general manager holds sway over both the 53 and the 48?
Yeah, I think general managers that have control over the 53 generally have control over the 48. No general manager, and I got this from two actual general managers, gets involved with scheme and things like that. I've never heard of that before. Actually, that's not true. I did hear a bit with Ray Farmer, who got suspended for it on game day. You know, remember that story. Ex-Eagles linebacker, by the way, was Cleveland's GM. So I'm not going to say it never happens, but if it happens, it's a bad thing. And he was a former player, at least, and all that kind of stuff. But so that part would be very, very, very rare to be in actual schematic meetings. But no, the traditional GM coach setup, the guy in charge of the 53 is usually in charge of the 58. And if he's not, if he doesn't care, which should be the case, by the way, they shouldn't care. They're aware of what's going on, so they're given the information, and that's why I think it was a non-story. And people got, very upset at the reporters for not following up. And I asked the question. We didn't follow up because we kind of knew it, and it wasn't like a big thing to us in the moment. But I saw it blow up yesterday. So,
all right, and I will say this in, I guess, quasi defense of Eagle Nation and Eagle fans. If they had been watching Birds 365, you and I had talked about this.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Yeah. So it didn't come as a major surprise to me. But I think checking the responses of Eagle fans, WIP, streams, and Twitter and everything else, I think that most people didn't know that Howie was involved to that level that he sat in on meetings. I don't think it was like, wow, the loud 5% who didn't know that ahead of time. No, I think more Eagle fans didn't know it than did know it. Now, shame on them. They should have been watching Birds 365 because, yes, you and I had discussed this earlier, but I don't think it was fake outrage. And I do think, I guess.
No, I don't think it was fake outrage. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, well, I think it was, he's not involved with schematic meetings. In other words, he's not involved with Jonathan Gannon in the defensive meetings. He's not involved with Nick Sirianni in the offensive meetings.
Well, what meetings do you think Gannon was describing when
the overreaching, when you have the game plan, this is what we're going to do. This is what we need, is sort of what Howie's involved in. And again, it's more involved in personnel than anything else. Oh, we're going to do this, so we need a punt returner because we're not coming. That's why I was using those guys as an example. We're going to be more heavy, for whatever reason. We're going to be heavy RPO attack. The Eagles use a lot of RPOs. So maybe it's a better idea to have Noah Tungiai than Grant Calcaterra for the Lions. Maybe they spread it out and they want to throw the football more against the Vikings. Maybe it'd be Grant Calcaterra. Who knows? That kind of stuff. So at the very end, Howie's sitting in on as the coaching staff, the guys responsible for inserting the game plan are together. So he's involved with that kind of stuff. But as it goes along during the week, he doesn't have to be honest, he doesn't have the time to sit through all those meetings. If he did, I give him credit for his work ethic. I'll tell you that. Okay. But it would be a bad thing. If he's involved with that, that would be a very bad thing. But he's not involved with that, nor could he be involved with that, by the way. It's just not
it sounded like a meeting of substance that Gannon was describing.
Oh, it's a meeting of substance. It's the final game plan. But the coaches have already put together the game plan. So I guess the problem, if there's a potential problem, would be if they went into that meeting and Howie said, no, you can't do that. You have to do this. I've got no indication that that's the case. And I think the way Jalen Hurts was used in week 1 is a perfect example of that. That proved to me that Nick Sirianni can do whatever he wants to win a football game and feels comfortable doing whatever he wants to win a football game. Now, if it's, and by the way, everybody uses Jordan Davis. To me, it doesn't make sense that Jordan Davis Howie Roseman would say, no, you can't play Jordan Davis. He would want it.
Want him in there. One of those 22 snaps he got. You're exactly right.
Yeah, it would be the exact opposite. So that part of it doesn't make sense either. So I don't think it's a problem right now. In fact, I know it's not a problem right now. Is there potential for a problem? You've already seen there's potential because of Doug Peterson. So if you get too meddling, yeah, there's always a potential for a problem down the road.
We touched on this briefly yesterday, and I saw a couple more today, so I want to reemphasize. For those who like to play the card, and I'm talking to you, Eagle Nation, again. I just defended you, but now I'm going to call you on the carpet a little bit. Eagle fans like to, from time to time, think, woe is us. The national media hates us. Maybe Jody McDonald and John McMullen hate us as well. But the whole throwing snowballs at Santa, blah, blah, blah. Our friends over at Crossing Broad posted a couple of fight scenes from around the NFL this weekend. And none of them were Eagle fans. Yeah. Shockingly, none of them were Eagle fans. All right, we know the national media lazy, and they always go back to San. I get that. The only thing almost as old as the complaints by the national media is the whining of the Philadelphia fans about the complaining of the national media.
I agree. Those fights. I mean, why are you putting out those fights? Because now TMZ's going to have a fight at Lincoln Financial Field, and they're going to put that on there. Newsflash. Some football fans, not all football fans, get liquored up and are idiots at games. This is not new. It's not going to be new. And it's going to happen here as well. So if you're going to highlight when it happens, insert city, Well, get ready because payback is coming.
Right. And it's going to happen here. You're right. It's been happening at football games since they started the National Football League. So that's kind of an old story. No, I'm referring to the fact that a lot of national media outlets have the Eagles in the top 10 of their power rankings. Some have the Eagles in the top 5 of their power rankings. Now, the Eagles won 38-35. I thought they were certainly a top 10 team, but that was me. I had them ranked a little higher than most other people. I didn't think they were going to jump up as much as they did off the performance that they gave.
Beating the Detroit Lions.
On Sunday. Yeah, beating the Detroit Lions by 3 points, and they jumped up several slots. Now, it's fairly easily explained by the fact that, some teams that people thought weren't going to win or were going to win handily didn't win at all. Green Bay Packers, San Francisco 49ers, hello. So they dropped while the Eagles, even though their win wasn't uber impressive, moved up because it was more about the other teams dropping than it was the Eagles wowing people. But I think it was Pro Football Talk with our boy, Mr. Sims, who isn't the biggest Jalen Hurts fan, although he's raised his elevation from the very low one that he had prior to last season.
Yeah, but Chris Sims had the Eagles with like the 3rd best roster. I remember that. Remember preseason? So he's turning. He thinks this team is pretty good. But yeah, when it comes to power rankings, I mean, our own Paul Domowitch does his for the 33rd team.
You got Damo say I didn't check Damo.
He had him in the top 10, but I have to double check. I don't pay much attention to power rankings.
Right. They're good for what we do right here on Birds 365. Debate, talk, kick things around. The actual influence it has on the National Football League is zippity doo-dah. It means nothing. The standings,
especially week 1, Jody, because you see all these anomalies in week 1. You always see it. Every year you see it. I went back to last year. So, look, they weren't successful in the end because Green Bay and Tennessee lost disappointingly in the playoffs. But they were the number 1 seeds on the NFC side and the AFC side last year. Green Bay lost by 35 in week 1.
Crushed.
Tennessee lost by 20-something in week 1. And they both ended up being the number 1 seeds in their conference. I'm not saying they're going to do that this year or teams that got destroyed in week 1 are going to do it this year, but every year there's these anomalies in week 1. Teams don't show up ready to play for whatever reason. And Aaron Rodgers' famous press conference a couple of years ago, relax, we'll get it together. They did. Let's wait a while. Let's wait a month, and then you'll have a better beat on this team. Because I got news for you. We got a game on Monday night coming up. We got plenty of time to talk about it. But I don't have a feel for who's going to win this game. I could see the Eagles blowing that team out. I could see that team coming in here and blowing the Eagles out. I don't have a feel yet for either of these teams or any teams, and I'm closest to the Eagles, obviously. I have a better feel for them than anybody else, but I think they're going to figure things out defensively. As weird as it sounds, Jody, I have more confidence in that I understand this team defensively than offensively.
Really? After that stinker of a performance they gave on Sunday?
Yeah. Because I know what they're trying to do defensively. I don't know what they're trying to do offensively because you have so much off-schedule stuff with Jalen Hurts. So it's so skewed. It's like, people are saying 17 carries. We talked about this before you came on with Mark. But so many of those were off schedule. So what was the play call? How many RPOs were involved? How much had to do with the blitzing? The lines were very aggressive. I don't know what the plan is offensively. I know what the plan is defensively. And I think eventually they'll settle down and they'll be okay. And that's why I say what I said there, even though most people think the opposite, because they're like, wow, they're so explosive. But, people are going to adjust. Ed Donatel's coming in this week. He's been coaching for 35 years. He's going to adjust. He's going to see what the Eagles did. He's going to try to hem in Jalen Hurts a little bit better. We'll see if he's able to accomplish it or not. I have a better feel for the defense and the offense.
Here's the reason why I brought up the whole the fact that the Eagles are getting some national coverage, national play as one of the best teams in the National Football League, some of which was their doing, most of which was the doing of Howie Roseman et al. To put together the roster they did. But some of it also had to do with other teams stubbing their toes, the anomalies that you just pointed to. Here's why I need to ask. We had an incident a couple of weeks ago that bothered me a lot more than it bothered you. And that was Jason Kelce feeling the need to put it out there that the Eagles need to be, and expectations are irrelevant and we're not ready, we're not going to. And you theorize that it's because Jason wants to get to some of the guys on his team that might pay more notification to a viral video than they would Jason Kelce coming up and looking him in the face and go, hey, we got no expectation. We make our own expectation. You don't listen to the outside world. We keep this all in-house. That he may be able to get through to a guy through a viral video. I just think if that's true, and you might very well be right, you and Jason might be right. It's sad.
Well, it's definitely
it's right
sad.
or not, it's sad.
It is sad. We agree on that. It is sad, but I do think,
that gets me to my question for today. On those same viral videos, on those clips on the phones from SportsCenter, from Fox, from wherever else, where they're running down the rank. Hey, Philadelphia Eagles, the fourth team in the nation. Hey, we're good. We're golden. We're the fourth team. Should we be worried about some of the younger Eagles who, in theory, are easily influenced by outside influences, that they're already getting props, that they're moving up rankings off a 38-35 win over the Lions?
Yeah, rat poison.
Yeah, we know Jalen doesn't get it. We know he won't be influenced. But apparently some people worry about the rest of the Eagle roster. How much should we worry, John?
I think it's natural for especially coaches to worry. Bulletin board material, blah, blah, blah. That's usually from a negative fashion or from another team chirping about you. Coaches hate when you do something like that. The same is with coaches hate when everybody is telling you you're great. I've been around dozens of coaches, NFL. They hate it. And there's certain guys it doesn't affect at all. But most people, you feel pretty good if somebody says something nice about you.
Right.
And it's just human nature. And they don't like it. And Nick talks about that a lot. And they'll use it conversely. I always joked about the run towards the Super Bowl because of the underdog theme and the mask and all that. I thought, it worked, but I've been said this to Lane Johnson. I said that was bull crap. I mean, everybody knew this was a good team.
I didn't think it was bull crap, but it was overstated.
Yeah. Well,
they didn't, John, they didn't make it up out of whole cloth. And some people.
No, it was about the quarterback getting hurt. Yeah.
Well, and that was baked into the reason why they were capable of playing the underdog card was because they were the underdog. How do we determine the definition of underdog in football? Check the betting line.
Yeah, but
they were the underdog to Atlanta,
underdog?
They were the underdog to Minnesota, and they were underdog to the Patriots. So they were within their rights to say, wow, we're the underdog. Nobody respects us. Well, the betting program, Vegas didn't respect them, and God bless them for playing it the way they did.
But that's what bothers me. They knew that the people weren't disrespecting them. They knew it was because of Carson Wentz's injury. If Carson Wentz doesn't get injured, he wins the MVP. They are significant favorites over the Atlanta Falcons. They are significant favorites over the Minnesota Vikings. Now, maybe in the Super Bowl, they would have been underdogs because of the reputation of the Patriots. That they probably would have been underdogs. But they would have been the home the home team in Lincoln Financial Field with Carson Wentz as the MVP against the Atlanta Falcons in Minnesota, they would have been double-digit favorites against the Falcons.
Probably.
They would have been a touchdown or a near a touchdown favorite against Minnesota. That's what I'm saying. Nobody disrespected the Eagles. And by the way, this is another part of this. I was there at the NovaCare complex the day after Carson Wentz got injured. It was like a wake, Jody. They thought their season was over. So no, they were no different than anybody else. That was my only problem, and why that was bold, you know what? That whole thing. Yes, technically they were underdogs, but they know why they were underdogs.
Right.
And they know nobody was disrespecting them. And they thought they were underdogs because they were like, oh, crap, we just lost our quarterback.
And one more quickie before we get a timeout in here and punch up our next guest, because I've gotten some of this on social media and on my 2 WIP shifts earlier this week. For you Minnesota fans out there, and right now we've got almost 350 people logged in. My guess is there's 2 Minnesota fans. There's 330, 48 Eagles fans, but there's 2 Minnesota fans. But I've got a couple of them. You know, I do a national show, so I got Minnesota fans. We got an affiliate in Minnesota. This is a revenge game for the 2017.
How many times have they played?
NFC Championship game. It holds no water. They played that game. The playoff game actually took place in January, so it was 2018. Yeah. They played later in that year, 2018, and the Vikings won. Yeah. And then they played again in 2019, and the Vikings crushed them. Yeah. They beat them up bad. Kirk Cousins threw the ball all over the lot. Yeah. So the Vikings have actually beaten the Eagles twice since that game. So the whole, we're going to be motivated to come in and win this game. No. Stop. It holds no water.
Different player, but first of all, different players, different coaching staffs. Everything's different. Everything's different. Yeah, and they played each other twice since that time, and the Vikings won both games. So, yeah, doesn't hold any water.
But believe me when I tell you, Johnny Mac, I've gotten tweets. Oh, Vikings are coming to Philly to kick their butts because of what happened.
Well, that's because that game was a little bit more important than the other 2 games. But
true. But the other 2 games were more on the par of this Sunday's game. So if you want to make a comparison, yeah, there are better comparisons than the 2017 championship game. All right, we're going to take a timeout. Hopefully, we're going to have Reggie Wilson. He's a sports anchor for KARE TV in Minnesota. Reggie was good enough to come on my national CBS Sports radio show and do a Viking preview for me before the season started. And he did a really nice job. So I reached out and said, would he be willing to stream in with us? We're hoping to get him punched up. Reggie Wilson from KARE TV in Minnesota next here on Birds 365.